Hey guys, so many of you, like us, are probably moving ever increasingly into playing indie games. As you know, most AAA games being released these days just don't really cut it anymore when you consider the base price these games typically carry and the microtransactions often needed to get full enjoyment from the game. And rarely do you find the love and attention poured into them that you'll find with many indie titles and developers. So with that said, we've compiled a list of some up and coming indie titles which should be released this year. This isn't genre specific, so you'll find a wide variety of games, neither is it a comprehensive list. Obviously there are far too many games for that and for us to cover them all. This is just a selection of games out of the many which look appealing to us. If this goes down well, we'll do more parts of this, so if you like this video, please like, comment and subscribe and all the usual jazz. Also, we'll link all the details and Steam pages etc. in the video description so you guys can check them all out and give some support to the games. So with that, let's get into it. So game number 1, Turbo Sliders Unlimited. Typically we don't really play too many driving games, but for this an exception must be made. Described as a driving game with an heavy focus on multiplayer and user created content and modability, this seems like one which will be heavily customizable. What first brought our attention to this was the distant top-down look it has. It reminded me of the Micro Machine games I used to play as a kid. So driven by nostalgia, we looked more into Turbo Sliders and we wasn't disappointed. Throw in a bit of Burnout and some other such madness, and this looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, especially playing with friends, which according to their Steam page can accommodate up to 20 players, and you can even do local 4-player split screen. Do people still do that anymore? If not, they definitely should. The devs also seem to be regularly involved with the community, and of course that is always a good thing. You can find them on Twitter and see some new updates and videos from what they're working on. Slated for release sometime in 2022 with an open beta available in early 2022. We can't wait. On to game number 2, which is Broken. Now we can't claim to know too much about this one, I just know from little I've seen it looks super cool. As you might know if you've seen our previous videos on Proclips, we are big fans of horror games, and personally I've always found alien abduction horror games particularly terrifying. So from the video, this looks right up our street. We'll have to wait and see though, because the devs describe the game as a sci-fi adventure game rather than the survival horror that it seems to be. So maybe the look from the video might not be a true reflection of the majority of the game. Time will tell, and we can't help but be really intrigued by this. We just hope it isn't a broken mess. See what we did there, so funny. Anyway, according to the Steam page, the game release is imminent with a date of 31st of January being listed. Game number 3, Capia. I think I'm saying that right, I hope I'm saying that right. Normally, a point and click adventure wouldn't be that appealing to us. However, Capia, whatever it is, seems interesting enough that we'll set our biases aside and give this one a chance. It seems delightfully quirky with a cast of interesting characters and locations, and one that's got us intrigued to learn more. In what seems to be a dystopian style future, you'll take control of one of Stefan or his granddaughter Renee, with both having their own unique take on the story. From what we can tell, each character will have their own unique path, which if true will of course offer increased replayability. It'll be interesting to see how unique each perspective is though. Will it be 2 separate adventures with different maps and characters and completely separate from each other, or will it be the more familiar style of single progression which branches off occasionally but largely remains as one? Currently there's a playable demo, and with it due for release next week, 24th of January 2022, it may already be out by the time you watch this. Game number 4, Fist of the Forgotten. This is one that's been on our Steam wishlist for a while now. Not only does it look great, with that beautiful shadowed silhouette side view reminiscent of Limbo or Scene if you've played either of those, it also looks a lot of fun too. Obviously it's hard to tell from video alone, but the controls look smooth as butter as the character glides from one side of the screen to the other. Don't expect much or anything in fact in the way of dialogue here, there isn't any apparently. We don't take that as meaning there'll be no depth to the game though, since you'll be making your way through a forgotten civilization fighting powerful enemies, all the while searching for clues as to what's going on. If Fists of the Forgotten is as much fun to play as it looks, and can draw you in emotionally to even a fraction of what similar games have done in the past, Inside, I'm looking at you, then I have really high hopes for it and can't wait to play it. The dev was good enough to reply when I asked about a release date and admitted 2022 release is unlikely, but there could be a playable demo available as early as next month. So we're probably cheating a bit with this one since the video is about 2022 releases, but does anybody really care? Game number 5, Damer 1994 Sandcastle. Probably the most well known game on the list, but one we're really excited about anyway. If you're a fan of survival horror games, then you may well have played Damer 1998, which was released back in 2019. We did, and we really enjoyed it. It started off as a fan-made Resident Evil 2 remake, but ventured off in its own direction. However, the similarities to it remain, which certainly isn't a bad thing in our opinion. Anyway, Damer 1994 is a prequel to that, and from the sounds of the description is more of the same, with some slight changes and improvements. Again, not a bad thing. You'll play as a different character and uncover some information about the characters from the first game. Blah blah blah. Honestly, we couldn't care less. If you've seen our Twitter, you've seen us mention Damer quite a few times. We are big fans. I just hope they get In the Loop to do the end title song again. Just please Google Damer end song to see why. It's stunning. So, with a release date of sometime in 2022, survival horror fans should really add this to their wishlist. On to game number 6, Resort. We love story-driven games at Proclipz, and Resort seems to be exactly that. An interactive mystery about repressed trauma and a tale of personal discovery. Oh, and there's a comet about to destroy everything too. Probably should have mentioned that bit first. Note to self, in future mention big comedy thing first to get people's attention. You play as Laura, a writer who travels to Laburnum Creek to interview people about their reluctance to leave, even though they're all about to be destroyed by this comet. There's something curious about this little town and its people though. Seems like it's up to you to find out what the hell's going on here. Described as puzzle free, unusual for these type of games, we imagine this will be story heavy. However, one dev mentioned the game is open world, so there should also be exploration and adventure elements. We have to admit, this might be another one which is a stretch to say it'll be released in 2022, as there is nothing concrete about a release date yet. However, it's been on our wishlist for ages and the devs still seem to be working hard on it, so hopefully it'll be with us sooner rather than later. Game number 7, Hidden Deep, is described as an atmospheric sci-fi action game. It openly admits to being inspired by games such as Alien and The Thing, which is good because that's exactly what I thought when watching the trailer. That said, it looks like it does enough of its own thing to not be a complete knockoff and comes with a pixelated aesthetic that most fans of indie games will love. The premise of the game is that you, a team of 4, are sent underground to search for a team of researchers who suddenly went missing. You have to find out what went wrong and rescue any survivors. However, something lurks below, and I have a feeling it isn't going to make it easy for us. You can explore the caves on foot, but also seemingly have a variety of tools and vehicles at your disposal too, with grappling hooks, scanners and drones amongst the items you can use. If you like the look of this one like we do, then you'll be glad to know it releases on the 24th of January 2022, and again, if you're watching this at a later date, you might already be able to buy it. Game number 8, Leap. Like Damer, this one isn't too obscure and you may already have it on the watch list. If you haven't though, and you're a fan of FPS games, but bored of the likes of COD and Battlefield, then you might want to give this a once over. It's a fast-paced multiplayer shooter, which, and bear in mind I haven't played it yet, seems to take inspiration from many other shooters. Watching the gameplay, I can't help but compare it to Halo, COD, Apex, maybe even Titanfall. This isn't inherently a bad thing, since those games all have aspects which combined could make a great game, but it does mean if it's a bad copy, it could bring about a quick downfall. It does have some interesting aspects, however. The one that stood out from watching was the map traversal via an hoverboard. This looks really cool and actually really well done. Looks aside, it offers a means for increased verticality too, which we really like the look of. Overall, from our limited perspective, Leap looks good. Not sure if it does enough differently to give people something new and fresh, but maybe it doesn't have to. Maybe if it can unify all the good aspects of the aforementioned games and not litter players with microtransactions, maybe those things alone could elevate, we love our puns, above the rest. We're cautiously optimistic and look forward to seeing what people make of it on release. Speaking of which, there's no set release date, but it does seem to be close as they're currently doing closed beta runs. Game number 9, Blind Fate Ido no Yami. Next up is this sci-fi hack and slash. Not only does this look great with sleek art style and smooth movement, but it has a really interesting idea too. Not only is our hero an absolute badass, but he's an absolute blind badass. You heard that right, he runs around destroying his enemies, all the while qualifying for a disabled badge for his parking spot. At first glance this might sound preposterous, but there seems to be a clever workaround. You see, he has this mask, presumably some technological marvel, which helps simulate the world around him. Tread carefully though, because the data fed to your senses can be old data, and the map may well have changed since. It's a really cool idea and one I'm excited to try out. What's not to like? Robots mixed with Japanese samurai lore. Sounds awesome to us. Currently there's a free prologue available on Steam, and the full game is set to release anytime now. Last but not least, well, possibly not anyway since we haven't played any of them yet, game number 10, The Pioneers, Surviving Desolation. A space survival game which offers, and I quote, a deep and innovative space survival experience. The game runs with the tried and tested narrative of being in near future and us silly humans have used all our natural resources and are forced to search the heavens above in order to maintain our way of life. After extensive research, it's decided to launch a mission to Io, a moon of Jupiter, in the hope of getting the materials we need. The game starts with the player choosing 3 people from a group of 15, presumably each with their own perks and misgivings, to build and maintain a base on Io in order to extract the resources humanity desperately needs. It looks like the usual survival strategy affair, with food and water needed to keep your character alive, for example. There might not be too much here that we haven't already seen a dozen times, however something about this game has me looking forward to playing it. It has a nice look and feel to it, it's won an award previously and has done well with a crowdfunding campaign. So while we're not overwhelmingly hyped about the Pioneers, we are cautiously optimistic about it and quite looking forward to seeing what it's about. It is slated for an end of year release, but I don't know, it just doesn't quite seem to be far enough along the path for that to happen, but I'm happy to be proven wrong. So guys, that's 10 indie games we are looking forward to playing in, hopefully, fingers crossed, 2022. What do you think? I know there are plenty more than the 10 we mentioned. Which games would you have had on the list? Let us know in the comments below. If you liked the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and also check out and support the games mentioned in this video. So let us know if you liked the vid guys, and we'll do another one as soon as possible. Take care.